Welcome back to the tribe, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe and enjoy the interview. Hello?
With this. You would have think I would have had Zoom done by now,
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
How are you?
I'm new to Zoom apparently. I'm
You
so
not use it
sorry.
every single day?
Dude, I'm on it every day. I don't know how it's always a mystery to me every time I log on.
That's same with us. We're using it every single day.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Mhm.
We got a
Yeah.
Dolphins fan. What's the
Massive.
jersey?
I
Yeah,
got the
Tua.
Tua. Who
Love
else?
it. Lefty.
I'm a
I don't
Giants
know.
fan.
Giants fan. How dare you? I'm out.
No,
I'm leaving.
Jaguars.
Jags. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
in.
Not
He's
the
excited
Giants.
for Trevor this year.
Yeah.
Looking
Ugh,
forward.
I love the setup. Wow.
Who, me? Thank you.
Yeah.
Love all the
The
hats.
hats.
It's only
Yeah.
taken a year to get this all sorted. But,
I try to do my
Look
hat
at you.
collection.
Wait, so Ben and Shane is it's Ben and Shane, right?
Yeah.
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 All right, Shane, you've got a bunch of fun. How are those Funkos so what expensive? You can't take them out of the box. I have like such
Yeah.
like I was like when my daughter she wants to take them out of the box and I'm like let me look them up and see how much they are on eBay. And
They
if
all
it's
go up
less,
in value.
they will, but it's like I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna sell them. I just like that.
It's I had like sports cards that were at one point worth so much money that if I would have cashed in at the height, I just worry about like sometime in the future, like everybody's like, we don't care anymore. And you're like, oh, should have
Yeah.
just taken them out of the box. But whatever, it looks cool. Looks good.
Our
You got a
sports
nice
card just went
setup.
for a lot. Yeah, I like yours. Yours is my favorite. I try to do
Yeah.
a hat collection, but failed.
Yeah.
Building this using this box. I want to
Mhm.
expand it. I gotta get it. I gotta start moving it around because it's like kind of a nice little conversation thing.
Exactly. I agree.
I got my high school baseball hat. That's the red one.
I played some baseball too, and I didn't like. We don't have a high school team, but I
Yeah.
played competitive baseball growing up.
Sick.
I
Yeah.
saw an interview from last week where you went to college and then you tried out for the baseball team and you just stepped out right away. I died of laughter right away.
It was such a quick opt out. I gotta tell you, Ben, it is the most humbling thing when you see these guys, because like I fancied myself. Like if I go out in a park or do anything like that, like I'll look like, okay, this guy has some ability. He knows what he's doing. But when it's compared to somebody who's just, and these are guys, and not every one of them made it to the major leagues, but one of them did. A couple of them did. But you're like, gosh, this is just such a huge step up in talent. You're like, okay, I'm good. And I don't know. I probably said this in that interview too about like anytime somebody's like, oh, I was good in college, but I got hurt. I'm like, never. That never happens. I don't know if I told this story. So I'm going to tell it to you again. Oh, do you want to save this? Should I be telling this now? Am I ahead of the game? I don't know.
We can use this. This is
We
good
can
stuff.
use it. Like we can go straight into it.
Yeah.
Like a cold open.
Yeah.
Me
Exactly.
lecturing.
Right into it.
Because this is what I hate. I hate these guys who are always like, oh, but yeah, but, I was going to get a ride to whatever school, but I got hurt. I'm like, that never, if you are good enough, they will take you. One of my friends played football at Washington. He had a broken wrist that he had to get surgery on. They gave him a scholarship.
Oh.
A friend of mine at Cal State Fullerton had Tommy John surgery. Tommy John, you're out for
Ooh.
2 years with that.
Yeah.
Got his scholarship. They kept him on. So there's if you're good enough, they don't care about your injury.
Yeah.
It's very true. I wasn't good enough. That's why I quit baseball.
Listen, it's a tough thing to finally admit.
Yeah.
But at some point you're like, yeah, okay. Like,
Everyone starts to know. Exactly.
it all filters out at some point.
Okay. So we're going to begin with talking a bit about you. So we want to know how you kind of got into the media business, like you're on different shows or like different networks and stuff like that. So we want to know how you got into it and where you found your love for the game of football and other sports.
Stumbled. I mean, a lot of it's stumbling into it, but I think that with a lot of people who love sport, it usually comes from your parents. Your parents are into it. I know being a Southern California kid, because people ask me this all the time, because I like the Angels and the Lakers and the Kings. And everybody's like, well, what do you do? What did you do for football? Because, LA didn't have football for so long. And it's like, it was
Mhm.
always the local teams. And whether you're Angels or Dodgers or Lakers or Clippers or whatever it is. And then whoever your parents liked in football or whoever just won the Super Bowl was going to be your team. And I think that was that way for a lot of kids. But my dad, it's his favorite. He loves football is his number one. So I love football. I wish I was a better player at football, and that would have been very helpful. But I always loved it and watched it. And you want to hang out with your dad or whatever, and you're just sitting there watching football all the time. Now my mom liked football, and so
Mhm.
she was cool, like Bears fan and everything like that. But she was more entertainment driven. So I also got a love for comedy of doing, like, she would let me when I was a youngster, she would let me stay up on Saturday nights to watch Saturday Night Live. We'd watch A&E's Evening at the Improv. So I was really like, I had this dual love for entertainment and sports. And now thankfully it's like all coming together at some time. And really when I was coming up, when it came time to go to college, I was kind of, sort of like, yeah, I'm going to go into college. I might not go into college. But my parents, because at the time, nobody had ever graduated from a 4-year university in my family. And my 2 older sisters didn't. One of them was in entertainment. And they're like, can you just go to college? Like, just do whatever. Just please, like, we'll pay for it. We'll do whatever. And I'm like, okay, so I go up, sign up, business major, go to Cal State Fullerton. I played baseball and I'm like, let's see what happens. Like I'm a good ball player. And as I was telling you guys earlier, yeah, I wasn't not good enough. Not gonna. And by the way, this is another one of my pet peeves too. People are like, when people go, yeah, I could have played D3, could have done this. Let me tell you something. I worked in the newspapers, LA Times, Orange County Register. I covered prep sports. I covered small school sports, NAIA, Division 3, anything that's out here in the area. When you open the program and you look at the kids who are playing at Chapman University, every single one of them, especially like in baseball, every single one of them, all league, all CIF, which is like kind of like our all state. Like they're studs. The only problem is they're 5'9", not 6'1". Like stop. You couldn't have played D3 either, or otherwise you would have. So stop saying that stuff. Like I knew I was a good high school baseball player. That's where it ended. But I still, try to continue in sports, doing the school newspaper, like I said, doing the LA Times, Orange County Register, covering the local preps, and then getting in an internship with the NFL. Like I don't even know how it's possible. It wasn't listed in any book or anything, but somehow I found a way. And just once I got in there, I just refused to leave. I just hunkered in. I'm like, I got squatters' rights or whatever. I'm not leaving. And
I
so I
heard
think
people. So sorry, I heard people consider you the Cal Ripken of internships.
that was my thing. Like I was a young man who would, you get a cool internship. Like not only because there was a big thing on the internet about a month ago where people are talking about unpaid internships because I did some, and like people are mad at me, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Like I as a rule, like I don't want it. Like I don't like unpaid internships. I'm not like, if this is a philosophical debate, I think unpaid internships are terrible. But it's like when you're at a rock concert and there's only one restroom, but there's a field where a bunch of guys are going to the bathroom. At some point you're like, I don't necessarily agree with this, but I'm going to do it because whatever's necessary, I'm going to do. And listen, I'm not proud of it. And listen, I wish everybody would get paid for their labor.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll sign up for that. But listen, I was a kid who was going to Cal State Fullerton. I didn't go to USC or Syracuse or Ohio State or Michigan or any one of those schools that's going to guarantee you a job. So I'm like, I'm doing whatever. And if I got to get by doing things that I'm not proud of, then I'm going to do it. So I was interning with the NFL. Fortunately, it was a paid internship. I still kept my job at the Irvine Improv. I worked at Disneyland for a while. Then I went to the Irvine Improv. So I was like just juggling all these
everything.
and just doing whatever, man. Like you're a young kid. You're like, you can do whatever. But yeah, I just kept going in like year after year. Like, okay, yeah. Like you want me back? I'm in. It was easy for them. Like the hiring manager who was super cool, Chuck Garrity. I think at some point you're like, you don't have to go through resumes or do anything like that. So you're like, sure, if Rank wants to come back, then you're welcome to come back. So I did that for a couple of years. And then eventually, you know, I graduated. And so you're like, well, you know, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm still going to take this money and go do this internship during the summer. It makes a lot of sense. But I was with a friend of mine at this local tavern called Cassidy's in Newport Beach. And it was a Sunday afternoon and my internship was over, but I didn't have the poppin' circumstance of like the go away where they give you the swag bag and they give you like a watch and a denim shirt with the NFL logo. I got none of that. So I said, you know what? Chuck Garrity was going on vacation because he left on that Friday. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to show up. Worst case scenario, I'll get paid for 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
That's going to be that. So I did. I just started, and my key card still worked. I'm like, all right, like I'm still getting in and out of the building, still getting paid. So who cares? And Chuck Garrity returns on that Monday, 2 weeks later. And he's like, what's going on? And as luck would have it, I had started working on this trading card set because one of the editors needed some help. I'm like, oh yeah, man, Peterson's got me on this thing, doing research for this Ron Mix trading card set. I'm looking up like quotes. And this is back, like I had to go look through books and stuff. So I know that's foreign to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I was doing that and he just kind of shrugged and walked off. I'm like, oh, that's wild. I'm like, okay. And then a couple months later, he shows up in my office and he's got like a yellow Post-it note. And I'm like, oh shoot, man, dude, I'm going to get bounced. Like I'm looking to see if he's got a security guard with him or something, but no, he was hiring me. He's like, you can't be an intern forever. That was the thing. He goes, you can't be an intern forever. And you're just like, poop, like, oh, this is it. It's over. But he's like, no, we're going to hire you. And here's what you're making. And I'm so bummed that I never kept this Post-it note. I had it for so long. And I was a young man. I was like in my 20s. So like early 20s. Was I 20? Yeah, I had to be 21 because I was at the bar. I was properly in a bar. I was of age.
Mhm.
And but yeah, so I lost that Post-it after a while because that was, one of like I used something you keep for a while. In any event, I was just hired. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Like that, it paid off. I don't know how it worked. It's like, I don't know if you guys watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's like a Charlie Day type of thing.
I've heard of it before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever, like old people to call it the Costanza from Seinfeld, but that was a show that came on before you guys were born. So I'm not going to make you go look that one up.
Mhm.
Okay. So you mentioned that you played baseball, and did you play a bit of football?
I played a bit of football. I was good. I was a
So-
good player. I was
Really?
a good
What position?
football player. I was a receiver.
Oh,
The only problem is our team ran the ball all the time.
But,
Like it was awful. Like it was I knew how to block. Like I'm a good blocker, but it wasn't as fun, in football practice.
Yeah.
Cause I played basketball and baseball too. Baseball practice is fun because you're out there shagging balls, you're hitting balls. You're like, you're screwing around. Like nobody's trying to murder you. Like it's pretty fun. Basketball's fun because it's basically just like basketball was like just playing pickup and then running a bunch at the end, which was fine. But football, that's the most miserable practices. So I played 1 year. I'm like, I couldn't do it. I'm like, I'm out. Like, it's just not the games go so fast and like all this. I'm like, I don't know. It was fine, but I'm like, it's just not my thing. I wanted to play quarterback. Like, that was another thing too, is I wanted to play quarterback. And so I'm left-handed. So the coaches go out, and if you're left-handed, like if you're Tua, they will
we go.
switch the offense for you. Because it's a big thing. Like Matt Leinart was a local kid out here. Modern day high school will change the offense, like flip things around so it works for a left-handed quarterback. You've got to be that exceptional talent. I was not that exceptional talent. So they're like, go play receiver and learn how to block. Although I will tell you this, one time when I was a younger man, this was I went to go play flag football one day. And so I'm going in there and I'm playing, and this quarterback, the guy who was playing quarterback, was so mad at everybody. And it was like third down play. And he looks at me, and I didn't even know this kid. He's like, hey, can you catch the ball? And I'm like, of course I can. He's like, I want to run a hook and lateral with you. Can you do it? And I'm like, bro, of course. So we run the play. I catch it, not only lateral, do a nice little, like, get in the way of the guy chasing him. So he springs for a touchdown. I catch a touchdown in the first half. Like, it's good. Like, I look like a stud. And then the only problem was is they had this guy who was rushing that they couldn't handle. And I'm trying to tell this kid, like, here's how you block. And then I'm like, forget it. Like, I'll do it. So I go out there, and this dude's like 6'3", and he's kind of built like, he's not John Cena like, but he's pretty put together. So he just comes rushing at me. I'll never forget. I know this is a dumb story. Like, listen to me telling a flag, but telling a flag.
That's what we play. We play flag football.
Yeah,
But it's fun. It is. So
it is.
Guy,
It is fun.
So this guy just comes running at me like full speed, and I don't flinch. And I'm like the size I am now, but I'm a little bit more put together.
How old are you at this point?
Oh, I'm in my 20s. Like, I'm still in my prime. So I'm at maybe. Yeah, I don't think I'd touch 30 because I was in really good shape. So I was like, yeah. Because I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have done this much past 30. So the dude comes running. He's just full speed. And I'm just like I'm not concerned at all. And I just get my hands close to me and I just pop him because you can touch him. And I just pop him right in the chest. And the dude just stops. It kind of wins him a little bit. And he's like, oh, like, and the quarterback throws the ball. Things go on. So then he comes up. And so the next time he comes up to me, and then God bless him, he's a big guy. He should just try to run me over again. But he comes and he tries to do a swim move. And again, like, once he gets his arm up to go do the swim move, then I just get him by his armpit and shove him. And he's a big guy. But his momentum is off because I don't think he's used to doing it. So I shove him and he stumbles and whatever, quarterback throws it and whatever. And then so the next time, third time's the charm, and he comes up and tries to do a spin move. I wait, and then when his back is to me, I just take him by his lower back and I escort him like I'm a bouncer escorting him out of the bar, just throwing him, just, excuse me, sir, I need you to leave. And I push him upfield. Like, he's a strong guy, but he's not used to his momentum not being forward. So I ruined this guy's life for this afternoon. And then all my buddies come out and they're like, bro, you gotta play next week. Like, can you come out? Like, what? Because I was filling in for somebody. And I'm like, yeah, dude, maybe. And I'll tell you what, Shane, Ben, and this is no lie, I never went back.
Why?
Why not?
I'll tell you why. Because I was a legend. I'm never gonna top that. Like, I'm never going to play as well as I played in that moment. And I knew if I started playing, I would get so competitive. I would work on it too much. No. This team went to the playoffs. They went to the championship game. They lost because they couldn't handle the guy who was rushing. And they just kept talking like, God, if we had rank, we would have like, I met up with like, oh God, rank, if you would have been there, we would have won. You would have had this guy. So I rested on my laurels right there. It's like when you have if you have a good combine, you don't go to the pro day and root numbers. You just stick it. And now that group of friends considers me to be one of the better football players that they knew. And when I tell them stories like, yeah, so when I do that, like, I could have played, but I got injured, I could have gone D3. They actually believe me. But that was the dumbest and that was the longest football story. I'm so sorry.
Love it. No, that was great.
You had to sit there and listen to it. All your friends are going to be like, why did you bring this guy on? Like, if I wanted to hear some boomer talk about flag football, I could have gone and hung out with my dad. But anyways, thank you for indulging me in that story.
No, we love it. We don't hear that. We're up in Toronto right now. So we mainly hear like hockey stories and all that stuff. So we always love to hear the occasional football story.
I legitimately can't tell that you guys are Canadian.
I take that. I'll take that.
I'm joking. Of course I can hear it. I can hear the accent and I love it.
Really?
I want to sit. Yeah. Especially you, Shane. Like you, Ben could probably get away. I actually thought, I'm like, is he Canadian too? Shane for sure. Like, no disrespect. And being Canadian's awesome. Like, that's the thing. I like Celsius. I think Celsius makes more sense. Like zero should be free. Like, it's the most American thing for us to do something that's just so difficult. That just baffles there's no reason for it. 32 is why? Why is 32 freezing? It makes no sense.
I know. I can't understand that.
It's just America trying to do something stupid just to see if everybody else will go along with it. And I'm glad that you guys haven't. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah, we don't understand miles. We're kilometers up
I
here as
know.
well. So,
Yeah, that's another, like, again, we've got to do, I don't know. We're the difficult child that has to do their own thing all the time. Like, we're just ruining it for everybody. I apologize.
It's okay. We forgive you.
okay. Who knows?
Thank you. Thank you.
So I see.
Wait, so you guys play flag football? Like, is this an organized thing? What do you guys do?
Yeah. Well, there's like a league. It's called the what is it? Toronto Flag
Football League.
TFFL. And like all our buddies do it, and you join teams, and then you compete like every weekend, like Sundays or something. Yeah, and then you go to like playoffs and stuff. And me and Ben were actually coaches
together
for volunteer hours for our school.
Oh, that's
we grew up
awesome.
some plays. Yeah.
Oh, look at you guys. This is the dumbest question that I can think of. Is it Canadian rules flag? Like, is it 3 downs?
No.
I don't know. Like, I'm not being insulting.
No, that wasn't a bad question.
It's not a bad question. No one really up here watches CFL unless you're like true Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Like,
you're gonna be a hardcore Canadian. I got you.
One of our dad's friends played in the CFL.
Stop it. Really?
Yeah. On the
who was
Argos.
it? Jeff Garcia?
No.
I don't really know Toronto.
Last name's Douglas. I think he was like an O-line.
Okay.
I don't know what he was.
So I see the hat in your background, and I know you've said this
Everything,
before,
all the
that
hats.
you're a Bears fan, and your Bears have been pretty active this free agency, signing the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton.
Yeah, buddy.
So what are your thoughts on that? You like the signing?
Oh, I love Andy Dalton. That's such
the
a
Red
great
Rocket.
move. Gosh dang it. You know what? I got to say this as a little bit of a humble brag. I've met Andy Dalton before, and it sucks because he's like such a nice person. He's got like a great dry sense of humor. Like, immediately just love the guy. And now, you know, you're trying to take it from a football perspective and everything like that. There's nothing against Andy Dalton, and he's not a bad guy. Like, it's fine. Like, it's, you know how it goes. Like, Tim Hortons is fine. Like, Tim Hortons is good. Like, there's nothing, like, I've got no like animosity towards Tim Hortons.
We love Tim's up here.
But you know, like, okay, that's a bad example. I think
Tim's is like our home.
No, it is so good. You know what? When I was one of the last times I stayed at in New York, I was in the Midtown area, and I knew right where the Tim Hortons was. There's one on, was it 42nd or 44th? But like, I knew where the Tim Hortons, because like I don't get a chance to get it, and I'm like, it is excellent. Like, I know it's one of those things. I know like Boston people always talk about Dunkin', like, oh, it's so amazing, and you're like, oh, Tim Hortons. When people brag about that, that's actually the truth. Like, that is, if there was a Tim Hortons where I lived, I would go there all the time. But I think Andy Dalton's kind of like some other like fast food place, like McDonald's. Like, it's never going to be your first choice. It's not going to be, you know what you're getting. It's fine. The kids like it, whatever. I think what Bears fans want is you want your own quarterback. You want a guy that you're like, this is our guy. We have our franchise quarterback. And for a lot of us, you know, for me, like even for my parents, you think about it, it's been a long time since the Bears have had like a true stud. Like, McMahon was great. Cutler had his moments. Walter Payton on a halfback option was amazing, but it's like, we haven't had a guy that we can rally around. We haven't had our version of Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Peyton Manning or something like that. And I think that's what we want. And it's no disrespect to Andy Dalton, who can come in. And I think that the Bears could easily come in and win 9-10 games with him and be competitive, and it's going to be good. But it's like, we still want our guy. Like, we want our Patrick Mahomes or somebody like that. Even Tua. Like, for whatever reason, I love reading mock drafts where people are like, yeah, maybe the Dolphins will go in for a quarterback. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Dumbest. I just don't read it anyway.
They drafted Tua last year. Like, what in that? Like, he got pulled a couple of times only because Flores was really trying to win, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was giving him a great chance to win. Like, he's a rookie
he's also coming off like an awful injury.
Surgery.
Yeah, and it's like a COVID year.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy to me.
Oh my God. Like, who would give up? And listen, if you want to trade him to the Bears, like, do it. But I love Tua. Like that's a dumb thing. So
Oh,
Yeah.
I
think that's the biggest thing for Bears fans is we just want our franchise quarterback. And it's difficult when you keep trying to find these stopgap measures. Nick Foles, Andy Dalton. I mean, if we wish that Mitch would have worked out. Like I
Mhm.
wanted Deshaun Watson. Like I thought he was the guy. Like he was my number one guy coming in. And I'll admit, like I didn't think that Patrick Mahomes was going to be as good as he's been.
No one did. Yeah.
But I knew Deshaun Watson was going to be amazing. Like because we saw it in college. Like yeah, he's a good player. Like what do you want from him? And it's not like when these Alabama quarterbacks, it's tough. I hate to do the thing with like Alabama quarterbacks because
Yeah.
that's dumb. That means nothing. But like Deshaun Watson, Clemson was not a blue blood program until he got there, really. Like when him and Dabo came in, now they're established. They're getting all these studs going through there. Deshaun Watson was the guy who kind of started that. And so I think that you give him a little bit more deference, and I don't understand, and I'll never understand why they didn't draft him. And I know there's things going on with him legally right now, but from a playing standpoint, there was no reason not to draft that guy.
Yeah.
I love him in Miami. Like,
Yeah.
You got Tua, stop it.
people always ask me, would you rather
be happy
Tua
with
or
one?
Watson?
I mean,
Wow. Yeah.
playing wise, that's a difference. I get what you're saying. Like it's a different because we know that Deshaun Watson's good. We're hoping
Exactly.
that Tua is going to be that good.
Mhm.
So from if we're playing Madden, I'd rather have Deshaun Watson. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he's
You
more
can
of a
scramble with him, and that's a touchdown right there.
He's
Yeah.
good. He's so good.
He's a good player. Yeah.
He's been great. He's been great.
So when you saw Dalton, how big was he? Because I feel like no one really realizes how big some like athletes are.
He's a tall
Yeah.
guy. It's funny because like it's interesting, especially when some of these guys stop playing football and they lose a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
Where you see some of these receivers, I'll tell you what, like I love Steve Smith. Steve Smith's not very tall. But one time when we were at the Super Bowl in Minnesota and we were at the NFL experience and we were on the field and we are lined up and he's not even trying hard. Like he's literally exerting no effort, but I'm trying to run past him and he's just casually holding me back. And I'm taller than he is and I weigh more than he does. And he has no problem just holding me back. And you're like, this is like this. I can't even imagine like the athletic skill. And you think about like when he was playing, like and this is, he's retired. Like I can't imagine like how good this player was or how good he was. And it's Steve, Steve Smith. He's a coworker. He's a great guy. And it's like, gosh, he is such a great athlete. MJD, like if you bump into MJD, you're like, there's just something different about him. It's not like walking into one of your other coworkers. It's like, gosh, like that guy, like it's an unbelievable, and they're not very tall, but you're like, gosh, they're just so solid. Like I would probably die. You know what I'm saying? Like it's tough.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but then you
They're
see some
freakish
guys,
athletes.
and there's some guys who come in who are just monsters. Andy Dalton was a lot taller than I expected. When I ran into Kyle Long, I look like Kyle Long's child next to him. And he was cut down too. This is before he got back into shape to go back into the NFL. And he was just that's a super huge guy. And you're like, goodness gracious, like this guy so tall. So yeah, it's freakish sometimes when you see these guys. You're like, this is unbelievable. Also, the professional wrestlers are like that too. Like
Really?
I've met a couple of them. There's some that are like shorter than me, but you can tell like they're just so jacked.
Yeah.
And then there's guys who are just huge monsters like Sheamus. I don't know if you're wrestling fans, but like Sheamus was just like such a big dude. You're like, whoa.
Yeah. So sticking with the Bears, what do you think about them sticking with Nagy as their coach? Did you agree with that?
I do. I mean, they haven't had a losing season with him. I mean, he can't go 8-8 anymore. I mean, I suppose he can go 8-1. So he's either going to be a winner or a loser. But I felt at this point that they still have had some issues at the quarterback position. We've never really seen what could happen if he has a quarterback who can run the offense, if you have an offensive line that's healthy, that's the one thing I think we noticed from the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
That Patrick Mahomes, who comes from that offense, like it's very delicate. Like if that offensive line takes a few hits, like it's going to be very difficult to run. And I think that perhaps looking at the long-term viability of an offense like that, like, gosh, does everything have to be perfect for this to work? But I do have some confidence in Nagy. I know Bears fans can be so toxic and so upsetting. I'm like, how do you not like this? I kind of like his vibe. I like the way that he conducts himself. People are like, he's arrogant. And I'm like, have you never met a football coach in your life? Like every football coach thinks he knows exactly. He's got every answer.
I wouldn't want to meet Bill Belichick. I'm scared of him.
I'm going to tell you a secret, Ben. This is a secret. Bill Belichick is a delightful human being.
Really?
You've met him?
I've never been in a circle where I've been talking to him, but at like the combine and some of these other events, he'll show up. Oh, what was it? It was Parcells went to the Hall of Fame. So he stopped by Canton for it. And you're watching him interact and you're like, oh, Belichick's just a normal dude. Like he's having the time of his life. He's doing his thing, really enjoying himself. I'm like, that persona he puts on for football is completely different, but I don't know that I'd want to play for him, but I think that he seems like somebody that I could have some appetizers with or something.
Mm-hmm.
At Chili's.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Like talking about the Matt Nagy thing, your Bears played against the Saints in the playoff game, and I think his name is Javon Wimmis, who dropped.
Wims, yeah.
God.
So what was your reaction to that when you saw go right through his hands?
Oh, that was fitting.
Was that a trick play?
It was a trick play. Oh,
yeah.
Listen, this is the best part, Shane. It was a trick play that the Saints ran the following week.
Yeah.
To great success. And that's what I tell everybody. I go, for all of you guys and girls knocking Matt Nagy, somebody in the coaching community thinks enough of his play calling that they stole his play and they ran it in a playoff game.
And it worked.
Yeah, it was a good play. It was a great play. Yeah.
Great play. Like that.
If that guy didn't miss that catch, that would have been a whole different game.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been. We had the MVP. Nickel. I don't know if you guys watched. I don't know if you had it up there in Canada or anything like that. Where you could have.
I tried to get it on.
Yeah. I saw a lot of YouTube stuff on it.
It was. Well, I love Nate Burleson. So that's my guy. So I'm always going to like it. And the kid, Ian Eagles kid, was really good. He's like the Clippers broadcaster out here. He's solid too. But it was so funny. Gabby, I believe, was the young lady who was there. Like the way they're explaining it, like it was kind of cool because like my kids are watching it, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool way to explain it. I also wanted them to I wanted them to extend it to like other things, or like because everything was like, hey, Gabby, it's kind of like, and they're trying to do like, I don't know if they'd written out these analogies ahead of time because I can't believe that they were coming up with these on the spot. Like I'm good at analogies. I don't think that they were that. I'm no disrespect, Nate, but I got to imagine you'd written some of these out. But they're like, oh, like, hey, Gabby, this is kind of like when your friend, ditches school and you're supposed to cover for or whatever it is. And I go, I want to do this for another game. I want them to do this for like a Packers game. And I would be like, hey, Gabby, you got to understand the referees love Aaron Rodgers. So if you get too close to them, they're going to throw a flag. Like, hey, Gabby, this is Kyle Fuller. He is so good at football that the stuff that he does seems illegal, but it's not. And every time he tackles somebody, they're going to throw a flag on it. It's like when you have a troublemaker in class and anytime something gets broken, they're the first one who gets implicated, like that kind of thing. I thought that would have been very helpful, but nobody asked me.
No, I love it. I love it. I hate how all the flags. We came from playing Tom Brady twice a year, and we saw flags.
That's right.
Every time we touched him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was Tom Brady. You were the Dolphins. Why don't you know the depth chart?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like I do that at work. We have This is the funniest thing. I don't. It's probably not the funniest thing, and I set it up now, and it's not going to be funny.
Oh no!
But but you guys know who Deion Sanders is, and like Rich Eisen.
Yeah.
Like theoretically, we have the same boss. Like there is somebody who's like the vice president of talent, so we theoretically have the same boss, and I never hear from him, and could go like forever. And he's super cool. And he'll always be like, "Oh, so sorry, didn't mean to get, meant to get back to you sooner." Like that's always the thing. Like, "Hey, meant to get back to you sooner." And I'm like, "Oh no, I read a depth chart. Like I understand. I understand the priority. Like I read this thing. Like if Rich Eisen calls you, you're taking that call. But if it's Rank, you're just like, yeah, I'll get back to him and it's fine. Like, believe me, I understand. I understand. I'm the 52nd man on this depth chart. I'm cool with it. I'm just happy to be here. Anytime I can get favor with somebody, that's great. Otherwise, glad to be part of the team, and I'll take that. And I'm sorry, Ben. That's kind of the way the Dolphins are.
That's how it
not
was.
Now, yeah. Not now.
They're moving up there.
They're moving up. That's true. Brian, by the way, Brian Flores. I don't think people are talking about this enough. Like, because even the previous year, was it 2019, right? My years are going to get mixed up. But like 2019, the end of that season.
Oh, it was incredible.
They were playing so well. And I'm like, why is nobody talking about this? Like, this is a good football team. Now they've got all these picks. So I know it's going to be a hot take to say this, but this, I think even more, it's tough because Buffalo has Josh Allen. Yeah. I think more so than Buffalo, I think the Dolphins are the one that you have to watch out for, is that team who could end up being a long-standing team that's always at the top of the AFC, because I think they're set.
Hopefully,
yeah. Who's your pick to win the Super Bowl this year?
It's too early for that, but if I had to pick it's too easy to say the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
and there's been here's a couple. There's two ways to look at this though. No team has repeated in the NFL since 2004, but that team was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Or excuse me, it was the New England Patriots led by Tom Brady, the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they got everybody coming back. They have a different, and if there's one guy who knows what it takes to repeat, a guy who is psycho enough to go through that. I mean, you think about how many AFC championship games Tom Brady went to in a row. Like every year, AFC championship game. Like he's dedicated. He's psycho. Everybody buys in, everybody in the organization. And I think a lot of times these teams, you win a Super Bowl, you get a little full of yourself. That's why, and it's tough. It's tough to repeat. We've seen it, teams that we thought were going to repeat, like the Chiefs, the Seahawks, like they've had both of them ultimately lost to Tom Brady, by the way. But it's one of those things. I think Tom Brady is the guy who could help reverse that trend. So I don't think that it's outlandish, and I don't think that it's lazy to say that the Buccaneers are the team to beat in football this year. But I think the Chiefs are going to be very good. The team that I'm watching out for the most, that I think sneakily could be the best team, the biggest challenger to the Buccaneers is it's not the Green Bay Packers, but I believe it's the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Stafford thing was a great move. Like it could have been so easy. You see this all the time. Like the Rams could have, they've invested a lot of money and a lot of time into the development of Jared Goff. He's gotten them to a Super Bowl already. Very easy to be like, hey, let's ride this out. Let's keep going. But the Rams blew it all up. We're going to go out. We're going to get Matthew Stafford. And because I think partly because John Wolford looked so good. Like John Wolford is a fine player. Like he's in the NFL. I think how different it was when you had another, like somebody else did it. You know what? Like it's like somebody who has like a bad partner or spouse or whatever, or like boyfriend or girlfriend. And you like hang out with somebody else. You're like, wait, life can be different. Like, oh, that's the way they were. Like, oh, wait. So our quarterback can run, is athletic, can make plays and not necessarily always get sacked. Because I thought last year the Rams were good enough to knock off the Green Bay Packers. And I will still contend that had Aaron Donald been 100% healthy, the Rams would have won that game. So I think the Rams are right there. And I love that they go for it.
Yeah.
Like they go for it. The Packers don't go for it.
Ever.
The Packers are like, hey, Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre, go win us a championship. We're going to do nothing to help you, but you go out and do it on your own. And then, like, and that's, I don't know. I think the Rams, I think they have the right approach to the NFL because I don't care about the picks guy. Like, I don't picks, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you get a good enough player, now I'm that way for established players. Like, if you want to give up 3, like what the 49ers gave up for a crapshoot of a quarterback, to me is too much. You give that up for Russell Wilson? All right, that makes sense.
Your Bears were going to do that.
I was happy with that. We know how good Russell Wilson is.
Exactly.
Like, I'm not praying that he's good. Like, we don't know who the 49ers are going to take at quarterback. It could be Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, whomever, Trey Lance, any of those guys. We don't know how good they're going to be. Russell Wilson, I think we have an indication that he's pretty good at football, at least at the NFL level. And so I thought that would have been a safer play. Obviously, the 49ers couldn't make that move. Seahawks are not doing that in the division, but you know what I'm saying.
Me and Shane were ready to bet on Chicago once they were trading for Russell Wilson. Once we saw rumors.
I placed a future bet because I heard they were going to like make a big push for him, and then they just didn't get him.
Well, they offered a lot, I saw.
Yeah.
They tried as hard as they could. They made a bid. And I don't know what this betting parlance is. I've never heard of it. As an NFL employee, I don't bet. Don't endorse that last statement. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, I was excited. I was excited because Russell Wilson said, I'll go to the Bears. Because otherwise I wouldn't have been in that conversation. Like I would have been like, what? Like, no, like I was in college and this girl who was like, no, just, you know, not to brag, but she was like one of the most attractive girls in school. And then she's like, hey, like she asked me, like, I would have never thought to myself, like, oh, like she'll go out with me. Never would have done that. But when they come and ask you, you're like, oh, let's go. Let's
whole
go.
New game.
We'll go to Applebee's. We'll get an awesome blossom. Like we'll do it. We'll have a night. It'll be fine. It'll be fun. So I never would have done that otherwise, but Russell, we were selected. We were put in that conversation, and to the Bears' credit, they did their due diligence. It sounded like they gave a very competitive offer, but they ultimately decided to keep Russell Wilson because that's probably the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
And we got Andy Dalton, so there we go.
There we go. Yeah. So we'll move into the fantasy football outlook, and me and Shane were wondering who you think your sleeper pick is for the
biggest sleeper
for the 2022 season.
I'm going to say this, and this is one of my things. I know this isn't a sleeper, but I want to take a moment to talk about Jonathan Taylor because this is such an interesting player. I know a lot of people, the way they do fantasy, they look at who have been the established stars for the longest time. And I think that anybody going into the draft, like CMC, I think is a different, like he's still in the prime of his career. Yeah. He should be the first overall pick, the guy at the top of the board. But I think Jonathan Taylor should be number 2. And I know that people feel comfortable with, like, they'll go back to Saquon Barkley, talk about Ezekiel Elliott. They'll talk about, who are some of the, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, maybe even Aaron Jones. And, they'll talk about the Bengals RB1. Like, quit trying to make that a thing. But what we saw out of Jonathan Taylor last year shows me a player who is ready to take that next leap. Like this is like drafting LaDainian Tomlinson right as he started making his ascension. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember when LaDainian Tomlinson was like more of a fringy player. And then I was like, I'm taking him first overall, which at the time, all except for one of my friends was like, oh, it's a great pick. Or no, wait, everybody said it was a dumb pick. Only one guy agreed with me. Only one guy agreed with me. And by the way, he's in my league of record, and he's the only other guy who's won as many championships as me. So that should show us what we think. So we like to be a little bit ahead of the game. And I think it's important to kind of be ahead of the game. And one of the things that I really love about Jonathan Taylor this year is that he's playing with a great offensive line. I think that Carson Wentz is probably going to have a huge bounce back playing with Frank Reich. They'll likely, I have them drafting a wide receiver because I think that Michael Pittman could be good. I have them drafting a wide receiver. So I kind of like that. And I just want to be ahead of the curve, and this can flame out. Sometimes these picks don't work out, and that's the way fantasy. I mean, shoot, I had Christian McCaffrey on enough teams last year to know that sometimes these picks don't work out. So I like him an awful lot. I'm still of the mind that you should draft Travis Kelce as your first pass catcher. I like Darnell Mooney. If I'm going to take the cheap way out, Darnell Mooney's a good one for me. I also like, who else am I also getting into? I'm stung because I had Blake Jarwin all over the place. Hold on. Let me pull up my mock draft Monday. That's how I remember all this stuff. It's so funny because I'll start forgetting people ask me fantasy questions right now because I'm so into the NFL draft and I'm doing my thing and I'm like, oh yeah, wait, hold on. Like I forgot.
It's tough on the spot to know everything.
No. I should be better. We talked about Darnell Mooney. AJ Dillon is a guy that I'm picking up because I think that he's a better version of Jamal Williams. I think that they're with 18 weeks. You have to remember now this season too. And I know this is one of the reasons why a lot of people won't take Jonathan Taylor is because they brought back Marlon Mack. And it's like they picked up a low cost option of a guy who already knows the offense and is not really going to challenge Jonathan Taylor. So I like that pick. I like Mooney. This is a wild one. Philip Lindsay in Houston. How many times does it always seem like Philip Lindsay is not going to have a gig and then it ends up being the best running back? And I don't care if David Johnson and Mark Ingram and all those guys are there. He's still their best guy. I like Michael Pittman. I think he's a good value this year too. Why are all these names coming up? Hold on. I know I got to do it better. By the way, I know we talked about Stafford a moment ago. This is one of the things. Now, what we saw with the Rams last year is I was leaning towards Jared Goff because during Todd Gurley's run with the LA Rams, when Sean McVay was there, no team ran the ball more inside the 5 than the LA Rams. And so I thought, well, with Gurley gone, they might try to throw the ball a little bit more. And so I'm like, I'm going to try to low key, pick up Jared Goff here and there, thinking that they were going to kind of abandon that strategy. Turns out that it didn't matter. And Sean McVay was still going to go with Malcolm Brown or Darrell Henderson and eventually Cam Akers. So you're like, okay, well, this is a Sean McVay thing. So when Stafford got traded to the Rams, my initial read was like, well, he's not going to throw the ball enough. And he's not going to be counted upon enough near the goal line to make a difference. And then one of my friends, Michael F. Florio, and we had this conversation and he was like, do you ever think that Goff compared to other NFL quarterbacks, not as good as they are, that perhaps Stafford gets a couple of extra opportunities? And it really stuck with me. So now as I'm doing these drafts, and I love taking Justin Herbert this year, but I'm low key, the two guys I want to add at the end of every draft, I think it's going to be important, especially this year, is to carry 2 quarterbacks. I know people love to stream quarterbacks and whatever. I understand the strategy. I kind of want to have either Burrow or Stafford on my bench because I think both of those guys have the ability to blow up for 5,000 yard seasons.
Yeah.
Stafford worries me a little bit because the Rams defense is pretty good, but Sean McVay doesn't seem to care all that much. And the Bengals still have a terrible defense. So Burrow could be asked to throw the ball 50 times. So I'm in on that.
Yeah. So,
I picked up Will Fuller late in my drafts last year, and obviously he's a Dolphin this year. So he was pretty
right.
Good.
That was good.
I loved Will Fuller last year, Ben. He was good. I love him as a number 1. I hopefully at 6 you guys get Jamar Chase or
Pitts,
or Waddle or whatever. God, if Kylie Pitts is there, let's talk about him for a second. You know what? It's so difficult for these tight ends to come in and make an immediate impact, but I think Kyle Pitts might be the guy who does it. I'm curious to see where he goes because I think the key to that is the Falcons at 4, because the Falcons could go quarterback because Matt Ryan's turning 36 this year. They could trade the pick to somebody who wants to jump up. Like if somebody wants to get ahead of the Carolina Panthers or something like that.
Yeah.
Or if they stick there, then I think it's very reasonable for the Falcons to take Pitts You put him on that team. They had the golden years of Tony Gonzalez. This would give him the prime version. And if he escapes, if he's not picked by the Falcons, the Bengals should do everything in their power. I know that you should probably pick a lineman to protect Joe Burrow, but if Pitts is there, like you got, like that's it. That's your Kelsey. That's your Gonzalez. Like put that with Joe Burrow. Then you got T. Higgins, you got Tyler Boyd, and let's go. Like that's a squad right there.
His pro day today was pretty special to watch.
Unbelievable.
His exactly. It's crazy.
And Chase's. Both look so
I want
good.
Miami to take him at 6. I love the pick.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they're both. I think Miami will get one of those guys should fall to them.
Yeah. It all depends what Atlanta does at 4.
It would be enough. Yeah, because I mean, conceivably those guys could go 4 and 5, but I don't know. I think somebody looking for a quarterback kind of sneaks in there.
Exactly.
Who do you think got set up the best after those trades with like the first round pick? Do you think it was the Bengals or the Dolphins?
The Dolphins did such a great job of getting back up there and not really having it cost them too much.
Yeah.
Like
they're the same player probably.
It is one of those things of the it takes money to make money type of situation where the Falcons are already the Dolphins are already like, yeah, we got all these picks to move. We can maneuver around. I thought that they've, it's fun to see them it's like an NBA trade deadline type of thing. And it was fun to see them work that out. And so I think they're in you look at the picks that they're going to have over the next couple of years.
Crazy.
Obviously you got to hit on those picks, but goodness gracious, they are set up.
Oh, is it those 25, 30 minutes when those trades were going down? I was going
unbelievable.
nuts.
Yeah. So much fun.
It was crazy to me. I had no clue what was going on.
I had no clue. I'm trying to keep up. Actually, yeah, James Coe and I were recording something and it was like, oh my God, like there was another trade. Like, how do we keep up with this?
No, it was nuts to me. The Philly trade was like, wow, like we're really going in.
Yeah, you're going for it.
Yeah.
We want someone.
So sticking with the draft a bit, which rookie do you think is going to have the biggest fantasy impact this season?
A lot of the things with the rookies always comes down to fit and availability. Travis Etienne is the highest rated running back on my board, but if he goes to a situation where he's going to be, Kansas City's a wrong example, but something like that. Like if he went to the Cowboys and he was brought in for depth, Buffalo would actually be a pretty good spot. And I kind of hope that he slips to 30 because if he goes to Buffalo, I think that number one, he becomes their number one running back, but he's also really good in the pass game. Like he's a good screen option. And I know that the Bills fans don't want to hear this because they're like, we don't need a running back. I'm like, you guys, like you got to run the ball sometime. And you can't rely on Josh Allen all the time. And if you can get a running back who is good at running the football and also catching it, which I think would be amazing. If they had the screen game with Travis Etienne to go with what they already have going on right now, because I love Stephon Diggs, love Gabe Davis. Like I think they're set. I love that Buffalo team. So
Sadly.
I think that would be a pretty good option for him. Of course, Chase depends on where he goes. I like Justin Jefferson was a special player last year, so that's a little bit different. That was, by the way, I remember telling the Eagles because I do my mock draft. My mock drafts are always different. Like I don't try to predict the pick. I try to tell teams what to pick. Like this is what you should do. And last year I told the Eagles that you guys should take Justin Jefferson, and they didn't listen to me.
No, they did not.
At the same time, by the way, I should point out though, I also told the Chargers not to take Justin Herbert. So I'm not always right. I'm not like the Chargers don't have to listen to me anymore. You guys can ignore me, but the Eagles pay attention to what I'm saying. So there's certain situations with certain guys going into certain, like if Elijah Moore went to, where could he go where he could make it a meet? Like if he slips to the second round and goes to New Orleans is a bad example, but like goes somewhere, like there's certain spots where you're like, well, then he becomes better. Exactly. Like T. Higgins, I like a lot.
I love T. Higgins.
I love him so much. So that, again, this isn't the most perfect example because he did go to a good situation for him. But if T. Higgins would have gone somewhere where they weren't going to throw the ball, like if he had gone to Dallas, like CeeDee Lamb, I guess this is the best one. If CeeDee Lamb would have gone to Cincinnati instead of, like, I would take CeeDee Lamb over T. Higgins, but the way the situation worked out last year, I like T. Higgins over CeeDee Lamb. So a lot of it depends on fit like that. And if I wasn't going to take Henry Ruggs over CeeDee Lamb, but you know what I'm saying? A lot of it does depend. Like if CeeDee Lamb would have went to the Eagles, I probably would have had him as the number one. I probably would have had him again ahead of Jefferson going into drafts last year, even though I love Jefferson a lot. So a lot of that is fit. And there's so many good, it's so funny. Like Alabama, just Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, and you're like, goodness gracious, like they just get everybody. Like it's crazy.
Oh, it's crazy. The past 2 years when they had Ruggs and Judy, and then you go to Waddle and Smith.
Unbelievable.
I've never heard of that before.
Does nobody else recruit? Like, what is going on?
It's also like Ohio State with the quarterbacks. Obviously, Dwayne Haskins isn't that good, but you got Joe Burrow and Dwayne Haskins in the same.
Yeah. And Dwayne Haskins was a good college quarterback. So that's,
So that's
I get that. You're right.
You always got that. So sticking on to the draft, there's Mac Jones right now, who people might say go 3 to San Francisco. Where do you see him going?
Yeah, I've kind of slugged him into 3 with San Francisco, mostly because, well, the thing is, and this is probably a lazy way to look at this, is he strikes me as kind of like another version of Matt Ryan. And Kyle Shanahan got the best years out of Matt Ryan that maybe this is the kind of quarterback. Now, obviously, the 49ers have to know who they want.
Yeah.
They have to, they've got to, and they have to like know that the guy that they want could be drafted. You know, they can't, I don't know. Cause it just, so much of it depends on what the Jets are doing. And is Zach Wilson going to be there? Is Mac Jones?
Who knows?
Justin Fields? Like, we don't know. 49ers have to be very, very confident in all their evaluations of their quarterbacks to think, hey, this is a guy, like they got to have their guy in mind. Mac Jones just seems like the most obvious. I think that he just, it's Kyle Shanahan though. So it's like any of these guys are going to be fine. I'm being very lazy by just putting him at number 3, because otherwise I don't know that he's a fit for everybody else, if that makes sense. He might make sense. He might make sense in Carolina, because I could see Matt Rule wanting to go with him a little bit. But there's certain guys where you're like, if you're the Lions, and if the Lions had an opportunity to take Justin Fields, I think they would take him. If they had an opportunity to take Mac Jones, I don't think that they would. So a lot of it, they're different scheme quarterbacks. So I'm being lazy saying that Jones is going to go to the 49ers, but I'm willing to bet that I'm going to be wrong on that.
We'll stick with it. I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be so interesting.
There's a conversation of Lance or Fields. So we don't know who's going to be the 3rd quarterback off the board.
Yeah.
Right now we just have Trevor and Zach.
Yeah. And we're assuming it's Zach Wilson. Some people might be turned off by him.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know. We don't know what the Jets are thinking. We don't know what the 49ers are thinking. Like, there's a lot of questions. And the Jets, I mean, that's another interesting one too. And I don't know if we talked about this already, but you look at the Jet, like I like Sam Darnold, and I think that Sam Darnold could be a good quarterback in this league. But at the same time, if you're a coach and you're taking over a team, I think you should have the ability to pick your own quarterback. Like, no disrespect. Like, if he wants to come in, and if Robert Saleh is already convinced like Zach Wilson would be his quarterback, I think you should pick him for him, and let Sam go somewhere else. You know, you're talking about if the Jets do draft a quarterback, that means they're likely to move Sam Darnold. I think that's where Atlanta could end up addressing their quarterback situation. Because if you're Atlanta,
I like that.
You're not gonna have to give up a 1st round pick, especially if the Jets already draft their quarterback. Because then the price goes way down. It's like, bro, you guys already have a quarterback. I'm not giving you a 1st round pick for it. But you can give them a conditional pick at the round of your choosing, or that is decided upon. You bring in Sam Darnold to back up Matt Ryan to be his eventual replacement. You're allowed to draft Kyle Pitts. Let's go. That's a squad.
I like it.
That is actually a really good play.
I like Sam Darnold. I think that he got put in a poor situation with New York and Adam Gase. obviously we had him in Miami, and he was pretty crappy there. But I don't know. It's
Awful.
interesting to see where he'll go if he'll stay with the Jets.
Yeah.
So another question that we have for you, just based off fantasy football, is me and Shane, once we saw Kenyon Drake to the Oakland or Las Vegas Raiders now, we were pretty shocked. So what do you think, like the value of Josh Jacobs or Kenyon Drake for fantasy?
Yeah, and they just traded away basically their whole O-line and then got Drake.
It's awful. Like it is so terrible because Josh Jacobs, I think he's a better receiver than people give him credit for, but he's a 2-down back. He's a 1,000-yard back. If you're going to sign a running back, sign somebody like James White, who can be your 3rd down pass catching back. Don't sign Kenyon Drake, who again, is a lot like Josh Jacobs.
Yeah.
A better receiver than he gets credit for, but is still going to be a 1,000-yard rusher. Why do you want 2 of those guys? And maybe John Gruden's doing it right because of the extra game.
Who knows what Gruden does?
But it would have just been so better just to go get the satellite back, get the 3rd down guy, get the J.D. McKissick type. I mean, James White was available. You saw him play. Like, he's good, John. Go get him instead.
Exactly. It's interesting. So now, like, I don't think we touched everything for fantasy football and football. So I saw on Twitter, like I follow you on Twitter, that you like to tweet about How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, buddy.
Love it. That show.
2 pretty big How I Met Your Mother fans. And personally, me, myself, I wasn't that disappointing with the ending, but I've seen that you did not love the ending.
The ending was the great, and I'm sorry to do this. I'm going to have to bounce at 5 your time, so I'm going to have to bounce a few minutes. But I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
They're pinging me for a meeting. I'm sorry, but I want to talk about this. We got 6 minutes. Let's talk about this. The ending was the greatest. I think that was the best ending that you could possibly have, where him and the mother live happily ever after. I don't know what you're referring to, because the only ending I've ever seen in my life has been on YouTube. That's the only ending. I don't know any other thing. I've never seen any other. I don't know what that means. I go from the Gary Blauman episode to where we see what happens to Wendy the waitress, and the bartender's son becomes the guy with McLaren's. I've never seen, I'll tell you this. I didn't watch I streamed How I Met Your Mother, and how I did it. This is old school. I wasn't off Amazon Prime or Hulu or whatever. It was on FX. And so I'd watched a bunch of episodes out of order. And so one time, this had to be after, this was after when my first kid was born, my daughter, she's 5. And so I said, so I had like paternity leave. And so I had just happened to notice I was watching the pilot episode of How I Met Your Mother on FX. So I hit series record. So I watched it that way, and it's mind blowing. It was so like, just to watch how it unfolded was so mind blowing. And especially the episode where Barney goes to San Francisco. I can remember how I felt. I want to recapture that feeling.
The Liberty Bell was my favorite.
Yeah, like that's a good, like, I wanted it for a CBS, just for a basic television broadcast sitcom to really hit you in the feels like that. You're like, oh, this is amazing. So I love the show. I love when the girl who goes to Germany.
Yeah, Victoria.
Gosh, thank you. I love Victoria. I'm a big Victoria guy.
Yeah.
But and obviously I like Kristen Molinati. But so I'm watching the final, I'm in the final season, and I think the final season's better than people give it credit for.
I liked it.
But I was 3 episodes out of the finale. I think that's Gary Blauman is the last one that I watched. I told my neighbor, I said, I don't know if I'm reading too much into this, but if this show ends with the mother dying and him ending up with Robin, I'm going to burn down your house. My friend literally deleted those last 3 episodes off my DVR. Went into my TV when I wasn't paying attention and deleted them. He's like, you got to watch this YouTube video. Here's how the show ends. And I'm like, okay, great. Love it. That's the way the show ends to me.
Mhm.
He's still alive.
Exactly.
I want to make it. You guys aren't old enough to remember this. Are you guys Star Wars people at all?
A bit,
Um,
yeah.
Shane,
I'm a bit.
Okay. So if you ever watch Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett falls into the pit of out in the Dune Sea. He gets eaten by the Sarlacc. But the fans revolted so hard against that. They're like, Boba Fett can't go out that way. That they made fan fiction that he survives. That obviously becomes canon if you play the EA Sports video games or any other things. It becomes canon that he survives. I think that we need to do this for How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we pushed that alternative that was filmed. They have it. They didn't like it wasn't a fan mashup. It was legit. I don't think it was, but
No,
like
it was
there is,
filmed. Yeah.
it was a filmed ending. That is
Yeah.
the ending. That is the ending.
We'll stick with
And-
that.
We'll stick
Yeah.
with that. Unfortunately, that's got to be the ending for me. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Thank you
great.
so
We
much
wanna-
for all your time.
Yeah, it really means a
I
lot
feel
to us.
bad. No, we got to do it again. I'll make it up to you.
Next time we'll talk
That'd
about
be
your golf
awesome.
and who do you think's gonna win the Masters? But
Yeah. Gosh, there was so much we didn't even get to.
Yeah.
So there's a lot left. We can do this again sometime real soon.
Hey, that would be awesome.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
All right. Well, Ben, Shane, it has been an absolute pleasure.
It was our
Every-
pleasure.
And everybody who is listening in, I hope you don't hold this against them. I know your friends are going to be like, why did you have that lunatic on? Dude, it didn't make sense. He wanted to talk about How I Met Your Mother, Star
Yeah.
Wars fan theories. But anyways, thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you
Really
for
appreciate
coming.
it.
Anytime. Happy to do it.